May I now request our Swamijis to take over the session.
Hello, everyone. It gives us a lot of pleasure to see so many bright, happy people, smiling faces, and so many people who are pursuing something that can be of help and aid to the world. My wife and I, Swami Devi, I am Swami Jyotish, we want to talk today about how you can be happy. It is the job of the college here to train you with the skills and the potential to become successful. But it is our job to help you become happy, because without happiness, no amount of success can fill a void in your heart. You know, obviously one of the most successful people in the entire world, and one that many of you, all of you will know, was Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. And Steve Jobs understood that it was not enough just to become successful at work, even to create what has become the most successful, richest company in the entire world. He understood that that was not enough to create a happy life. Steve Jobs also had a very deep spiritual life. At the time of his death, when he had his funeral, he asked that everyone who attended that, more than 500 people, be given a special gift. And this was a gift that had changed his life. It was a book. It was the only book that Steve Jobs had on his iPad. You know, the iPad has the readers. He could have had 1,000 different books. He only had one book on that iPad. And every year he read this book. And it was the book by our spiritual teacher called Autobiography of a Yogi. Now, why did Steve Jobs want to read Autobiography of a Yogi? He didn't need more instruction. He didn't need more success. He certainly didn't need any more money. But he needed peace of mind. He needed happiness. And he needed to have a way of having a balanced life. When you're someone that is highly creative, highly intelligent, and highly successful, there is a huge flow of energy that must flow through you. We had a friend who worked in Apple Corporation in their executive offices, and he said that Steve Jobs had a mind that was like it was electric. He would walk through and he was always looking how to improve, how to create. He would even make comments on things like the fabric on those chairs is wrong. Let's do it this way. I want something that has more energy to it. Those are dull. And so his mind was always working. But in order to be happy, he understood, and we understand, that you must develop different aspects. You must balance your life. And so he needed to balance his creativity, his intellectual prowess, his huge responsibilities, with a spiritual side of his life. Because no matter how much fame you achieve, no matter how much money you acquire, no matter how much creativity and products you are able to create, unless you develop your own inner nature, you will always be unhappy. There is a statement that each of us has in our heart a God-shaped hole, and only finding God will fill that hole. Now, different people pursue God in different ways, which is as it should be. God created enormous variety. If you look at the trees and the animals and the people, there's enormous variety. No two snowflakes are alike. No two fingerprints are alike. Everything is different. Everything is individual, but there are certain common traits that will help us be not only happy, but will also help us to be successful. I want to talk about 3 things that we all must bring into balance if we're going to be happy. I know that all of you are studying very hard, that many of you are feeling a great deal of stress in your studies. And that stress is most likely going to continue after you finish your studies. When you take a job, especially in the computer industry or in programming, you will have constant deadlines to meet. You will have work pressures to meet. You will have perhaps a working environment that is not very pleasant, maybe has very difficult, authoritative, maybe unpleasant people who have some control over what your job is, what your working conditions are. And so you cannot expect to lead a happy life if you are thinking that I will fix the environment around me, and once I get that fixed, then I will be happy. If you wait to become happy until the circumstances are right, I can give you one guarantee: you will never succeed in being happy. Happiness is within your own heart, within your own mind, and happiness is a choice that you can make or you cannot make. Our guru said that a yogi, someone who is trying to unify their consciousness with the creator of everything, with God, a yogi should be able to stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds, so that nothing outside is able to shake you if your center is very strong. And it needs not only to be strong, but also to be flexible. You know, in a great typhoon, the trees that stand are those trees not necessarily that are the biggest and the thickest, but those trees that have flexibility, so that when the wind blows, those trees are able to bend with the wind and then regain their center. And so each of you too must develop not only inner strength, but inner flexibility. Let me talk about the 3 things that are going to be very, very important for your own happiness. The first is, you must learn how to take care of your body and your health. Because if your body is weak, if you don't have very much energy, if you don't have good health, it will be as if you have to walk through life with big weights tied to your ankle. And so there are some very, very simple rules to taking care of your health. The first is that you must eat a proper diet. And a diet proper diet doesn't have to be rigid. It just should compose itself mainly of fruits and vegetables with a little bit of cooked grains, not very much sugar. Sorry to say, I know that you love sugar. Everybody in India loves sugar. As far as I can tell, everybody in the world loves sweets. But it's not that we don't have any. You must take it a little bit in moderation. But good, healthy, fresh foods. It's just really that simple. You can read 100 books on diet, and you will find that ultimately you will come back to fresh foods, fresh vegetables, good, wholesome grains. The diet of India is, by and large, a very nicely balanced diet if you follow a few basic rules. So diet is one thing that will give you health. Some exercise every day is one thing that will give you health. If the body is not strong and exercised, it will become weak. And when the body becomes weak, the rest of you will begin to weaken also. You know, in order to succeed at a job, or even at a job interview, in order to be hired for a good job, you have to have strength, you have to have inner confidence, you have to have energy. It is said that a person, upon meeting another person, makes a basic judgment about that person in less than 1 second. And so when you walk into the room for an interview, whoever is giving you that interview is going to make a judgment about you in less than 1 second. And so when you walk into the room, you have to walk in with confidence, with courage, with the sense that you know that you are able to fulfill that job task, because whatever you say, if you make a positive first impression, that will, whatever you say after that will be accepted by the interviewer. If you make a negative first impression, whatever you say will be discounted by the interviewer. And so even your body posture is important. Imagine if you were going to hire someone, if that was your job, to hire someone for a position that you knew that person needed to perform at a very high level. Would you hire somebody that stood like this? Or like this? Would you see our bodies express the kind of energy that is flowing through us? Have you ever seen someone say, "I feel so happy. I'm just a bundle of energy"? Or have you ever seen someone say, "I feel terrible. Life is unfair. It's treating me badly"? See, the body posture is attained because there is an energy flow within us. So your health, your confidence depends upon strengthening that energy flow. When that energy flow is strong, it makes the trunk of your tree very strong also. And then you can accept challenges, and those challenges don't have nearly as much effect on you as they do if you're weak or if you're not healthy. Even more important than physical energy and physical health is mental and emotional health. There are greatly successful people who don't have a very healthy body. A perfect example is the great physicist Stephen Hawking. Many of you know of him, know of his work. He can barely move now. He has a degenerative disease. He sits in a wheelchair, but he has a tremendously powerful mind and very positive emotional nature. So you are training your intellect, but the mind is more than just the intellect. In ancient traditions, there are 4 parts of the mind, and only 2 of those parts have to do with the intellect, the perception and discrimination. But 2 parts of the way that you function in this world are not intellectual. One is your feeling nature. You will feel things and make much of your way in the world according to your feelings, not according to your intellect. You know, if you see a little worm on the ground, the worm doesn't have any intellect, but if you poke it, it will shrivel up or try to crawl away. It's working with its instincts and its feeling nature. So your feelings, your emotions, need to be directed in a positive way. Most of the stress that you will come under in your life, stress, think of it like a weight that is pressing down on you. And most of the stress, most of what you have to do in order to overcome that stress. Now that pressure might come from your job, it might come from your family, it might come from even your parents, it might come from a variety of sources. And much of the way to overcome that stress is not to try to battle against the stress itself, but rather to try to free up your own emotions, your own reactions to that stress. Let me ask you a question. If you're under a tremendous amount of stress at school or at work, which is the attitude that will help you to better sustain yourself, to better hold up under that stress? The first attitude is, this is unfair. I don't know why they're doing this to me. I don't deserve this. I don't like this. I don't think that this should be the way that life is. Is that going to help you deal with that stress? Or should you have an attitude that sounds more like, I know that this is difficult, but I have the skills and power within me to accomplish any job, no matter how difficult it is. This is fun. One of the things that allows one person to learn rapidly and another person to remain slow and at the back of the class is that the fast learners think that it's enjoyable, think that solving problems are fun. So have fun. Find out how, because you have a choice in this matter. See, you have the ability to control your own reactions. And if you assume that you will react in a positive way, in a happy way, that makes your mind strong. It makes your feelings strong. I heard a very good example of this, of reacting positively to a circumstance in life or reacting negatively. So imagine that you're on a bus and you're drinking a cup of tea, hot tea, and someone comes and bumps your arm and you spill the tea all over yourself. Now, what is your first reaction? Your first reaction is probably, who bumped my arm? Why can't they be more careful? I have a right to my own space. That person needs to be chastised. So you turn in order to give that person a good tongue lashing. And you're angry, you're upset, you're judgmental. All of these are negative emotions. So you're filled with negative emotions from that little incident. You turn to see who it was that bumped you, and you see that the person who bumped you was blind. And now you're no longer filled with negative emotions. Perhaps you're compassionate. Perhaps your mind immediately switches to, that person couldn't help it. Maybe you even expand a little beyond that and think, what a difficult life that person must have. Having to go through life blind, missing one of the primary senses. Instead of being mad at that person, maybe you stand up and say, please, madam, take my seat. And you help that person. See how that switch of your own reactions from negative to positive opens up a flow of positive energy. Now, one of the things that is most important of all in dealing with stress is to learn how to control your own reactions to whatever life gives you. To learn how to have positive reactions rather than negative reactions. We have a clinic near our community in California, and that clinic not only serves the members of our community, we have about 250 people who live in our community. We all eat a good diet, but most importantly, we all practice meditation together. And at the clinic, because that clinic serves many thousands of people in the same area, they can see that the people from Ananda who have been meditating are 10 years younger than their chronological age. So if you're 60 years old, when you come into the clinic and they give you blood pressure tests or heart tests, you test out to be more like a 50-year-old or a 45-year-old person. Whereas many people who are filled with negative emotions and bad habits, who use alcohol or smoke or have other bad habits, they're much older than their chronological age. But meditation is the key to happiness. Why is it the key to happiness? Doesn't it seem like, well, meditation is just one more thing to do, one more obligation I might have, one more element that I have to balance in my life. But it is not that, because innately in your own inner self, you are already joyful. That's the meaning of Ananda. Ananda means joy or bliss. And that is our very nature. One of the great yogis of ancient times defined God as Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is awareness, or is existence. Chit is awareness, and Ananda is bliss. And so all of us, because we are created out of the consciousness of God, we all have those same three qualities. We exist, obviously we exist. We're aware, obviously we are aware. But we are also innately joyful, innately blissful. Now that isn't so obvious. Many people don't feel like they're blissful, don't feel like they're happy. That's because they're looking for their happiness not in their own nature, but outside of themselves. So if you think that your happiness is going to come by being rich, If you aren't rich, you're unhappy. And the sad thing is that if you are rich, you're still going to be unhappy. Because happiness does not lie in money. It lies inside your own self. And if you do not realize that it lies within you, and that you have a choice of being happy or not being happy, then you will constantly be seeking it outside of yourself. There's a great woman saint of this century, passed away not too many years ago, named Anandamoyi Ma. Perhaps some of you have heard of her. A great, great saint. She said something very interesting. She said, the natural food of the mind is joy, and people will always feel hungry until they can feast on that joy. And furthermore, she told her disciples, if someone is seeking happiness outside of themselves, they're seeking it in money, they're seeking it in fame, they're seeking it in a good job or a big house or many possessions or a big family or a good family, whatever it is. If they're seeking happiness outside themselves, she said, don't stop them from seeking that. They're hungry, and that's the only food they know how to eat. And so don't stop them. They'll starve to death, mentally and emotionally. But she said, much better, teach them the techniques that will allow them to find their own joy within themselves. And so the techniques of meditation, of what is meditation? Meditation is essentially quieting the mind and quieting the emotions. So we sit for meditation, we close our eyes. Often meditation has a breathing exercise that perhaps Swami Deviji will speak about. But we close our eyes, we watch our breath, or we focus our attention on something within. Perhaps you can see light at the forehead. When you focus your attention within, gradually the restlessness of the mind begins to become calm. And when the waves of the mind, the sea of the mind, when that becomes calm, then you can see down into your own nature. And in your own nature, you will find everything that you're looking for. You will find strength. You'll find courage. You will find love. You will find kindness. You will find calmness and peace and harmony. All of those things that you're looking for, they reside within you already. You just have to calm yourself enough to see them. Why do they reside within you already? Because you are made from a creator, and these are the creators, these are God's qualities. And since we're made from God, we're made from those same qualities. So we don't have to do anything. We don't have to learn something in order to find God. We have to unlearn something. We have to unlearn nervousness, competition, jealousy, anger, all of the negative things, those things habits that we have picked up. As soon as we calm ourselves and look within, we find automatically that there is joy and there is strength. And so if you balance these three things, your physical body, your emotional, mental nature, and your spiritual nature, if you can bring those into a balance in your life, you will lead not only a successful life, but you will lead also, much more importantly, a happy life.